888-971-SAGE. We're talking about Donald Trump's reaction to the NFL protest and his saying that wouldn't you like it if a NFL owner fired the, quote, SOB. Jabari is in Dallas, Texas. Jabari, you're on the Larry Elder Show. Thank you so much for calling. I appreciate it.
Yes, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
I just wanted to make one quick point. The dude that came on before, that's a bunch of rhetoric. I got on.
Excuse me, sir. What dude are you talking about?
When he was talking about the players and the law, I have respect for the law.
You mean hold on. You mean you're talking about the gentleman whose video I just now played? Is that what you're talking about? The one I just now played?
No, I'm talking about the caller you just had who was saying it's just a game, and when you go home and why it's silly. And I'm trying to get some.
Okay, all right, Jabari, fine. No. That wasn't a caller; it was a video. But go ahead.
Okay, well, my bad. It was a video.
No problem.
I have law enforcement in my family. I'm a black male. I respect law enforcement, but as always, once you're a law enforcement, you take your job very seriously. I have an auntie, I have an aunt and an uncle that are Arkansas State troopers, and they say once you break the law, you are no longer able to uphold that law because you've broken the law. You didn't uphold it. Now, if you're upholding it and you're doing your job and you're really for the law, you're going to uphold it all the way. Far as this anthem thing, a lot of things that were back in the day that people had no right over, it's basically over the third stanza of this anthem. It was cut out. I could say, look, it was cut out. They didn't use it. Whoever used this, it was a poem that was taken, the stanza that was taken out of a poem that was used for our anthem. Good thing. They cut it out. On the other hand, you got to know what it's like to, find out that something
Jabari,
crossing you out.
Jabari, may I ask you something, please? For 8 years, when President Obama was president, that same stanza had been taken out. Did that bother you then?
Did it bother me then?
Yes.
I didn't say it bothered me now, but it bothers me that people have a problem with people protesting. If it bothers you that much, don't watch the kneeling part and watch the game. It's never bothered you that before. So if the anthem really bothers you, ignore it like you ignore police brutality. Just act like it doesn't happen, and then once it goes off, cut the game back on and watch.
All right. You purport to be a police officer, correct?
No, I didn't say I was a police officer. I have an uncle named
I see. You have law enforcement. You have law enforcement. Okay, you have law enforcement in your family. I'm sorry. I thought you said you were in law enforcement.
No, I never said that.
Okay, my bad. Now then, why are these protests taking place in the first place? What is Kaepernick trying to say? What's his point?
His point was to bring attention to the way he did it. I might not agree with.
Bring attention to what?
To what? Attention to police brutality.
Okay,
which I guess that was his own form. Not saying that I agree with the way he did it.
Jabari. Okay, Jabari, do you feel that police brutality is an issue within the black community?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Is it going up? Is there an epidemic of it? I think that's the word that some of the protesters have been using. Is there an epidemic of police brutality in your opinion?
Well, it's the epidemic of not having justice. When we watch the man who goes, you want to talk about people. If you go against the law and you do something stupid, that's a person. They're upholding, they're doing their job. They don't know who you are. I tell people that all the time. If I get pulled over, I get all my headlights.
Okay, all right. Jabari, do you have any idea how many unarmed black men were killed by the police, say, a couple of years ago? Unarmed black men?
I stopped counting 50.
50?
But can I assure
you? They actually the number. I'll hold you over. We'll talk some more on the other side. But the number actually is 16. We'll talk more about that. Okay. Please don't hang up, sir, because I want to finish this conversation because this is very important.
Larry will be right back.
Hey, Larry, this is Mike Mays from Sports Mays Media. Colin Kaepernick. Okay. He got some advice from Michael Vick to trim his afro. Pretty stupid advice, actually. But the only advice that was more stupid was from his new representation to opt out of his guaranteed contract, which would have paid Colin Kaepernick $14.5 million from the San Francisco 49ers for the 2017-2018 season. So nobody wants to pay Colin Kaepernick that money to be a starting quarterback. Well, that's the free market system, and Colin Kaepernick is a fool for opting out of his contract. Free market system.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Far be it for me to correct an expert in sports, but he's wrong. Colin Kaepernick was not going to be picked up anyway, and the ownership already said that. This guy was going to be let go. He was not going to walk away with that kind of money on the table. He had no money on the table to walk away from. He was done. 888-971-SAGE. Back to Jabari from Dallas. And Jabari, thank you very much for holding on. I really do appreciate it. Jabari, you still there?
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm good. Jabari, do you think that there's a problem with lightning strikes in the country? People being injured by lightning? Would you say that's? Would you say that's
something that has to do with the Almighty? So I can't control. I think about things that I can control.
Would you say it's?
I can't control God and His actions.
Neither can I. And would you say that it's rare for somebody to be struck by lightning?
That's what they say.
Do you know anybody who's ever been struck by lightning?
No, I've heard of people.
I've heard of people, but I don't know anybody personally either. But you know, it happens 300 times every year. And assuming black men are 7% of the population, I know that lightning is not going to strike people equally, but assume that blacks are 7% of the population, so that's 21 black people every year being struck by lightning. Last year, Jabari, 16 men were killed, unarmed black men were killed by the police, 16.
Why would you kill an unarmed person?
Well, if you're arguing
law enforcement, because
if you're
I was trained by
let me finish. Let me finish.
How to use a gun.
Let me finish.
And he never told me to shoot an unarmed person.
Okay, so there are fewer unarmed black men being shot than being injured by lightning, and you and I both agree that people being injured by lightning is very, very rare. So being killed as an unarmed black person by the cops is even rarer than being struck by lightning. Can we at least agree on that?
Babe, hold on. I'm trying to get your question. You're trying to compare a black man.
No. I'm talking about the frequency. We don't complain about how frequently people get injured by lightning, and it's even rarer for a black person unarmed to be killed by the cops. Now, any black person unarmed killed by anybody for an unjustifiable reason is bad. I'm just telling you it is rare. Can we at least agree that it's rare? That's all I'm trying to get you to agree with me. That's rare.
It's rare that. It's rare, I guess, that lightning strikes before.
It's rare. It's rare that lightning strikes.
That's not rare.
It's rare that lightning strikes. It's even more rare for an unarmed black person to be killed by the police. Can we at least agree on that? Just in terms of the numbers.
No, we can't agree on that. Because Orlando, okay, I want to ask you something. You're educated.
No. Wait a second. Why is it we can't at least agree on that when you've already said that getting struck by lightning is rare? Can we at least agree?
That's why I'm giving you a rebuttal. I'm asking you. You're the educated person. Tell me what happened in this case of Orlando Castillo. Here's a man who was.
Wait, I'm sorry. It doesn't work that way. Jabari, answer my question first, and then we can deal with it. Answer my question, please. Answer my question, please. It is rare. Can we agree on that? Then we'll deal with your next question, okay?
No, it's not rare. It's not rare for black boys have been shot down since the 60s, since my daddy was living. You know, back then the law was set against us. Wasn't nothing really you could do about it but just take the loss. You can't compare Jim Crow's system to the rights that we have now.
Okay, well, the fact is that these numbers are added up, and the Center for Disease Control has added up all the numbers. 2014, the last year data available, 131 blacks, 261 whites were killed by the cops. Okay? Of that number, a small number were unarmed blacks killed by cops. Most of the black men killed, and most of the white men killed for that matter, have a gun or a knife or otherwise are threatening the cops. That's my point. It is rare. Okay? Can we at least agree on that, Jabari? Sir?
I still can't agree that it's rare when it's happening every day.
Doesn't happen every day. I'm sorry. You made a statement. It doesn't happen every day. 250 black people. There are 365 days out of the year. So it doesn't happen every day. In fact, twice as many whites are killed by blacks. So it happens to whites every day. So you're just wrong factually, Jabari.
Okay, so where are the reports of the black officers who shoot unarmed white men? Why this never comes up? So we can point out though when it's obviously it's an epidemic.
Okay. I'll give you an instance. I think it was a year or two ago, Salt Lake City. A white person was killed by an officer who happened to be black. Nobody gave a rip.
Never heard a report.
All right. Okay, so you think it happens a lot. Well, Jabari, how many whites are killed by cops in any given year?
I wouldn't know. I would say a few.
500 whites, 250 blacks. Twice as many whites are killed than blacks. Can you name one white person killed by a cop? One?
Mike Flynn in San Jose that just got killed. He had passed out, and he was shot by San Jose police because they thought he was battling them, and he had no weapon. He was having a seizure. I mean, come on, man. I mean, if you're going to uphold the law, we need to
Jabari, can you name another one, please?
It doesn't make...
Name another one.
Huh?
Name another one.
I can't name it off the top.
So you can't
name one that just happened.
So you can only name one white person. You can only name one white person who's been killed, but I bet you can name a whole bunch of black people who've been killed, can't you?
Okay. Well, name one officer who's been filmed shooting an unarmed person. Let's take the black unarmed person and has got found guilty. Which one? Because we saw in North Carolina where a man that could barely run, a 50-year-old man,
and he was convicted, and he pleaded guilty, to second-degree murder. Jabari, he pleaded guilty to second-degree murder.
Yeah, that's the only one.
You said name one. I gave you one. My goodness. 500 whites, you can only name one, but you can name a whole bunch of black people, even though it happens less frequently. I'm Larry Elder.
You're listening.
Now, Jabari made a number of assertions. And Jabari, again, thank you so much for calling. I really do appreciate it. I know that you don't agree with me, but you still listen to the show, and that says a lot about you, and I really do appreciate that. Now, there's a piece, we're going to put it up on LarryElder.com, called Police Violence Against Black Men is Rare. We talked about it last week. It's from the National Review. And I mentioned that 16 black men were killed by the police, unarmed black men killed by the police, according to the Washington Post last year. And somebody like Jabari might say, okay, well, that's killed. But what about being stopped and brutalized and roughed up and mistreated? What about all that? There's something called the Public Police Contact Survey. And as the name suggests, it gives information about contact between the public and the police. It's conducted on a regular basis by the Bureau of Justice Statistics. And it's based on an annual representative sample of 70,000 people. 70,000. That's a big sample, 16 and older. Respondents are asked whether they had any contact with the police in the last 12 months. And if the answer is yes, then they ask a battery of questions about the nature of the contact, including, of course, any use of force. You're supposed to provide age, race, gender, all that stuff. Turns out 17.5% of black men have had a contact with the police in a given year, as opposed to 20.7% of whites. So white men are slightly more likely to have a contact with the police than black men. It is true that black men are overrepresented by the people who've had more than, say, one contact with the police in a given year, but even that's not that big of a discrepancy. Only 1.5% of black men have had more than 3 contacts with the police in a given year versus 1.2% of white men. And then they talk about forms of injury and conduct and all that stuff, and they go over all that, and we'll talk about that next hour. But the data just aren't there. And you can't have any meaningful discussion about blacks contacting with the police without having a meaningful discussion